Hi, I'm Paul from Test Data Services, and this video is going to walk through LoadRunner analysis for LoadRunner 2020 Service Pack 2 for a standalone setup. So LoadRunner is a really fantastic load and performance testing tool, and analysis is the key way that you can take all of the data from a load test and aggregate it and slice and dice it and look into it and figure out root cause or assess why certain things are happening or what the capacity is or where issues are. So when doing that, there's a lot of data at play. And if you run a very large test, it sometimes takes quite a while for LoadRunner analysis to load up and present everything, especially if you're using it on the same machine as the controller with just the default setup. If you run a very large test, so I've run tests with more than 20 million transactions, they don't really work very well with LoadRunner analysis in its raw form. What you need to do is set up the standalone version with SQL Server. Now that might seem a bit intimidating, and if that's the case, this is the video for you, because I'm going to show you in this video how to take a brand new full clean install of Windows 2016 with SQL Server using Amazon, launch it from scratch, load the LoadRunner analysis onto it, and set it up with SQL Server, and then actually load in some analysis. I'm not going to go through the analysis in this case, but this video is basically to show you step by step so you can follow along and get your own LoadRunner analysis set up in a standalone mode. So what we're going to do is load up a new instance of Windows 2016 with SQL Server. So to do this, we're going to launch an instance, and I'm going to search for SQL Server Standard 2016, and we're going to go to Community Marketplace, and we can see this one here. 2016 SQL Server Standard, that was on the 18th of August. That's an appropriate one to use. And then this is the costs here, so it's not that cheap. I'm going to use C5 2 times extra large, so $1.77 per hour, plus IO. We're going to use IO2 as the IO type, which is a bit expensive, but it's really fast, and it is worth it. Just what I normally do is I just terminate the instances when I'm done. I save the data, of course. Okay, so we've selected here C5 2 times extra large. I'm going to tell it to just give me an IP address. I think I don't really need 100, but I'll take 100 gig of storage. I'm going to use the new IO2, which is very high IOPS. The advantage for high IOPS is it means that the instance launches much quicker, which is sort of nice. And we don't need port 80, but we do need RDP because we're going to access it from RDP. And I think that's it. Yes. And we're going to choose a key. All right, so now we're launching. Once it's underway, I will click on that instance, and I'm going to give it a name, Demo SA Analysis. All right, so now we're initializing. So it's going to take a little while to be ready. While we're waiting, if we go into Instance Settings, get Screenshot, we can see from here that we are in the initialization stage. We're not going to be able to get the password until we get a login prompt over here. So what I'll do is I will just wait. Okay, we have a login screen now, which is great. Given that, what we'll do is get Windows password, paste in my PEM key. Now this is the password I'm going to use. I'm just going to copy this over to my other window over there. All right, so now we can log in. We'll go RDP, remote desktop, and I want to make sure that I don't have any local drives. I normally use local drives so I can copy files around. I don't want to do that this time. And administrator. Yep. And then the password. All right, so you can see I'm on the correct machine. It's doing its initial thing. Okay, so now I have a new Windows instance, and this Windows instance has on it SQL, and it's all set up, ready to go. You can see here. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to download from a location which will not be available by the time you see this video, the key files that I want. So I'm going to open up. So these files I'm about to download is the standalone analysis, a template file, and some results so we can actually analyze something. But the proper way to do this is to log on to the Micro Focus system, download the software via the screens that you have access to. But that's going to take too long, so I just prepared this earlier with all 3 sets of data. Do this one more time. Save. All right, so I'm now downloading this file. Once it's downloaded, I'll show it to you. All right, so now we can see that it's completed the download, and we can just unzip all of this, extract all. The other nice thing about using that IO2 specification for the disk is that it's nice and quick. If you use a slower disk, it takes quite a bit longer to unzip and to work. So this seems to be the best mix for me. This is what I would normally fire up. And then after I've done my analysis, I just terminate the instance. Unless I'm going to use it like a few times. I stop it and start it if I'm going to use it a few times for a project, maybe for a day or two, and then I terminate it. All right, so now we've got these things here. This is the template which we're going to use. These are some results. And these results, by the way, are quite big. They've got like millions of events in them. Okay, so we're going to do this standalone analysis install. What that's going to do is require that we do these .NET frameworks. Partway through this, it's going to reboot the instance, and it might take a little while. So I might just skip over this. There's no point running a more powerful machine. This has enough memory and this has enough CPUs. It's quite a bit better than just doing a extra large. 2 times extra large seems to be better. There we go, we're doing a reset. And once it's done its reset, we're going to need to give it a few seconds. But 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That should be enough time. It is. Set the right password. Copy. Looks better. That's the password I just copied and pasted from before. Okay, so we're back in. And now we'll just pick up from where we left off. Go to Downloads, Analysis, right-click on Standalone Analysis, Install. and say next. It'll want to know if we want to overwrite things, and yes, we'll say yes to everything. Let's just, while that's happening, show Task Manager. Just so you can see what's going on. All right, so now we've done all of the preliminary steps, and now we're going to do the actual installation. I'm going to set this up even for LoadRunner Enterprise, which works just fine. So if you are setting up LoadRunner Enterprise and you can follow these same instructions, except you'll actually do the database a bit different, but still, it's one of the components. While I'm waiting, let's get the Management SQL Server Management Studio. We'll need that shortly. We've got to run a query. All right, we're installed. And that's connected as well, which is nice. Okay, finish that. Shrink that. All right, so now what we need to do is open up Analysis, run as administrator. Now, if we want to open a file to analyze a set of results, we can do that right now by just going File, New, and selecting the analysis, the results file. But we don't want to do that now. What we're going to do is set up analysis to use SQL Server. So to do that, we go at Tools, Options, and then we're going to, actually, while we're here, Results Collection, let's make sure that we specify this one here, Generate complete data only. I find that better when I'm using the database, the proper database. Now it's default to MS Access, which you don't have to install anything separately. It's just part of the standard install package, which is already here. But we're going to select SQL Server. Now, when we do that, it's doing some things behind the scenes, and it's trying to talk to SQL Server, or getting ready to. Oh, what did it do? Oh, there it is. Okay, so what we have to do is set this up properly and then hit test parameters. If we hit test parameters now, we can see there's 4 fails. The first fail is connection parameters. So what we need to do is tell it to use Windows Integrated Security. That's just what I'm doing. I haven't had to do anything separate or special for that. Now if I click test parameters, I've got a good connection. So that's a good start. Then we need to set up the shared directories server. So what we have to do is tell it a file share and where the actual data is that's being shared. And the data we're talking about is where the database files are stored for SQL Server. So they are stored in the default install in this location. Copy. All right, so it's, now what I need to do is go to that directory. And then go up 1. So we're in C, Program Files, Microsoft SQL Server, MS SQL 13, that is for 2016 version, MS SQL, and you can see this data directory here. If I now go Share, Advanced Sharing, and Advanced Sharing, share this folder, and permissions. Let's just make it for everyone to have full control. And now, when I hit test parameters, I've got 3 ticks. Now the last one here is that I can't execute the XP command shell on the server. So there's an easy way to resolve that. I'm going to put the instructions below, but what you do is you go to databases, just choose a database and then run a query. And then I'm going to include in the description below this same text I'm about to paste in here. Paste. And then execute. Okay, so now we've given that permission. And now if I say test parameters, it works. So that means I'm good to go. I'm good to do an analysis. So that hasn't taken very long. It's like 20 minutes so far, elapsed time. And if I go now, new, and downloads, LoadRunner analysis, which one? I'll do this one. Then we'll actually load in the analysis, which I reckon is pretty good. So I'll wait for a little while it's doing its loading, but this is much faster than using standalone analysis. So if you've got a test and you have a few thousand transactions or even 10 or 20,000 transactions, analysis by itself is very fast. But if you have 1 million or 10 million or 100 million transactions, you really need to use this standalone analysis. What I've found as well with LoadRunner 2020 Service Pack 2 is that TrueClient has a lot of extra information. So every interaction with TrueClient is instrumented to a substantial level. So if you do, 500,000 screen visits as part of your TrueClient script execution in your test, you're going to have millions of transaction events, and they take a while to load in. So this is what you're going to need to use if you have that. So I'm going to come back in a few moments when it's done. Mind you, it's actually going pretty quick, so maybe I won't have to go away. This by itself takes like an hour in the default setting on the LoadRunner controller machine with analysis as it comes out of the box. And this will take a small fraction of an hour. As you can see, we're ripping through it pretty quick. And the other nice thing is it's doing full analysis in one go. But the main thing that you've been able to see now is that we've gone from a blank operating system, a default clean OS with SQL Server on it, so you haven't had to install anything, you haven't had to buy a SQL Server license, you've just paid an hourly fee for SQL Server, and when you're done, you just terminate the instance, and while the instance is not running, you're not paying for it, you're paying for the storage though, and we're using fast storage, so probably a good idea to terminate after you're done. And you can open up these analysis files, produce all your graphs, export them, generate a report, whatever you want to do, and then ditch the instance. Or shut it down, use it a bunch of times over a day or two, and then ditch it. Okay, look at that, 80%. So I think we've been going for well less than 2 minutes. So it might be 30 times faster doing it this way, which I think is pretty good. Well, 30 times faster for what I'm doing, which is TrueClient-based scripting. Let's just have a look and see what it's doing over here. Anti-malware is busy. At the very last bit, we'll see SQL Server itself. Processes of SQL are running quite high as it's doing various queries, but we're nearly there. Oh. I've seen that error a few times, and if I just hit OK, it ignores it pretty well. It's not great, but it doesn't stop the analysis from happening. What are we doing? It says complete data down here, so that's a good sign. There we go, SQL Server. You can see we're actually really using it. And there we go. We've got some data. So, fantastic. Hope you found this interesting and useful. Have a great day.